FM News Talk 97.1. On-demand audio.
Have no doubt that they are on the path to achieving that capability. Look what they've achieved over the last 10, 15 years and also exported to other countries, including Iran. And so they are a danger. So I think it's a matter of time before they have that capability. Whether they do or not right now, I don't, it's not clear.
That is, of course, Senator John McCain saying it's only a matter of time before North Korea becomes nuclear if they are not already. I mean, there's been a lot of discussion that perhaps what they have is small amounts that they can fire on missiles, short-range missiles, or something to that effect. But today, North Korea is celebrating the birthday. Yeah, the birthday of their country's founder. And it's supposed to be the big day. We keep hearing that, well, it was supposed to be last Wednesday that North Korea was going to fire something and so on and so forth. John Kerry has been dispatched to the peninsula to try to ease tensions, which I don't know if I have a lot of faith in Kerry's ability to do that. To get perspective on this, plus Venezuela and so much more, we're going to talk to Stephen Yates, foreign policy expert with the D.C. International Advisory, also former advisor to former VP Dick Cheney. You can find him online at dcidvisory.org. Stephen, good afternoon to you.
Hi, Dana. Great to be back.
It's good to speak with you always. The latest in North Korea, normally North Korea, they celebrate the birthday of their country's founder by firing off some sort of ballistic missile. Is it expected that, because, that's just, I don't know. I guess that's just how that they particularly handle it. But is it expected that their celebrations today is going to be nuke day? I mean, when is that going to happen? Or do you get the sense that this is cleverly, this is just rhetoric that somehow I don't know. I don't know exactly what to expect. It's important enough, though, that Kerry was dispatched down there.
Yes, indeed. Well, I think it's certainly an important problem that this administration is trying to wrestle with. It has bedeviled previous two-term presidents, so it's not a small issue, not easy to resolve. But we don't get to know when North Korea is going to launch a nuclear-capable missile. We know that they have progressed in recent months much faster than experts had predicted at being able to do a multi-stage rocket. We know that they have detonated nuclear devices 3 times in the past. And so I think Senator McCain is essentially correct that it really is moot to debate whether they're going to become a nuclear-armed power. They have the building blocks in place, and really it's up to us to come up with a very different approach than we've had in the past if we're going to try to contain or stop this threat.
Right. Is there expectation that they may have already achieved this? Because I know last week there were some dueling headlines saying that North Korea has already achieved this, or North Korea is incredibly close. Do you think that they have already gone nuclear?
Yes, in short. But I think that there are 2 significant errors people can make in reading intelligence. One was done famously in the past where people overly interpreted intelligence reporting suggesting someone has a nuclear capability. The second kind of error was committed by Secretary Kerry, where he declared that because there's an absence of evidence, there is evidence of absence. In other words, he somehow reversed what was the leaked subtext of this DIA report, Defense Intelligence Agency report, saying that they have nuclear capability, and said, no, there's no evidence of them having demonstrated this. Well, of course not. They can't demonstrate the ability to deliver a nuclear device to an American city until they do that. And I sure hope that he's not waiting till that time to mount a sufficient defense.
Right. Well, yeah, definitely. I would hope not. John Kerry, is he going to be actually, if you could rate how you would perceive his effectiveness in all of this, is he actually that skilled as some sort of mediator?
Well, I have my biases, and people might forgive them. I'd give him about a 0 so far.
I can't get over that Genghis Khan.
Look at the crisis burning on in Syria, and there's no redress anywhere in the offing there.
Right.
What's happening in North Korea is directly related to where things will go in Iran. And all of this attention to North Korea actually is giving Iran some very unhelpful signals about how far they can go before there's any real resistance. And on North Korea, Kerry just went through the region and told the Chinese not, hey, you're responsible for this. It's on you, and we're going to treat you as having been engaged in this activity unless you pull back your ally. Instead, he says, those missile defense deployments we've put out there in recent months, we understand that those might be sensitive to you, and if you'll help us out in resuming talks, we might reconsider redeploying those missile defense capabilities. I don't think that'll make our allies feel very reassured, and the North Koreans certainly would basically get a reward for playing the same game.
China had released a statement earlier where it's been interpreted that it was kind of a slap towards North Korea. Is that just theater? Is that just simply theater? Because I can't imagine that North Korea, and you and I have talked about this before, would even blink without permission from Beijing.
That's correct. And you have to read words that come out of Beijing with a fine-tooth comb. I mean, some people sort of laugh at that, but at the same time, you look at the statement that was made, they didn't specifically mention North Korea when they offered their statement. Our diplomats helpfully interpreted it as being aimed at North Korea, but the very next day, in their flagship propaganda newspaper, they had a commentary blaming the United States for what's happening on the Korean Peninsula, blaming the United States for misinterpreting intelligence, and basically putting it all on us. In other words, the statement they made was aimed at the United States, not North Korea.
Wow. I want to switch gears and look at a different part of the country, the recent election in Venezuela, where it's being disputed, the opposition to the Chavez successor. Maduro's, it looks as though he overcame his opponent by barely a percentage point, but it's being challenged because there are reports that there are perhaps 300,000 incidents, in air quotes, of voting irregularity, surprise, in Venezuela. Obviously, because it's so close, I mean, Stephen, honestly, there's no way that Chavez's successor legitimately won by 1% in Venezuela.
Well, I mean, this is one of those things where, free and fair election is I think, close to fantasy. But I'm actually very, very heartened that they had the news report the outcome that the opposition candidate came so close. And to me, what's shocking is not that there is scandal involved in the electoral procedures in Venezuela. I'm just shocked that people seem to have finally put their votes where their hearts have been for a long time.
Right.
And saying enough.
Yeah.
And I would be very pleasantly surprised if a recount emerged and produced a new leader taking the country in a sensible direction. The United States would welcome a friendly relationship with Venezuela under the right leadership.
Right.
I just take heart now, with a glass half full approach to what appears to be the current shenanigans.
And Nicolas Maduro, he's got the 70s stash and the 70s hair. He looks just as Tupperware fresh as Chavez's political policies were. 14 years of this. How familiar are you with Enrique Capriles? And I know I butchered his last name, but he's the opposition who's supposed to be more, he's really been critical of Chavez and says that, essentially socialism has failed. Is he as conservative as he seems in the American press?
To my knowledge, yes. And a lot of people in Venezuela have been. Really, that's the tragedy of this lost decade plus with crazy Hugo, is that there are a lot of very sensible, very motivated, very free market, and basically center-right people in Venezuela who really want a different future for the country had they thought a better future before Hugo came into power. This is a natural ally of the United States under the right leadership in a region that needs the right kind of development.
Right, absolutely. Stephen Yates, DCIadvisory.org, DC International Advisory. Always a pleasure, Stephen, and hopefully when we speak next week, the North Korea stuff will be diffused. I'm not going to be incredibly hopeful, though.
Amen on that. Thank you.
Thanks so much, as always.